So I've been watching through One Piece. And I'm at about the halfway mark, which is fitting because the Straw Hat Pirates just reached the second half of their journey too. At first I was just watching a little, just to, see if I was into it, but at this point it's probably safe to say that I am. But when I try to think back and mull over what it was exactly that hooked me, I'm shocked to say that it wasn't Arlong Park, or Enies Lobby, or even Marineford. The arc that finally made me want to stick it out for the long run is the very one I constantly see studying the bottom of everyone's arc tier lists. Now I'm no stranger to somewhat hot takes on this channel, but am I really going to play defense for the most slept on arc in anime history? A better question might be, am I stalling this intro because I can't remember what it's called? It's like long dick, long nose, no ring, long land, long ring, long land, long that thing long, ain't it? It's long ring, long land arc, you fucking. Okay, jeez. For all of you that haven't seen One Piece, it's enough of a cultural phenomenon that you already have all the background information you'd need to watch this video. But I'm still gonna hold your hand and walk through this whole arc before I give you my thoughts at the end. A, because that's what every YouTuber does, and B, because it'll be fun to contextualize my thoughts on it twofold by the end. So we start as the Straw Hat Pirates come across a depressed crew stranded in the ocean, much too few in numbers to save themselves, and with no sail to even go anywhere, they don't really have much of a choice in the matter. They've got no sense of teamwork, no navigator, no cook, no captain, and a pack of literal sea monkeys sends them sinking to the bottom of the blue sea just for gits and shiggles. The Straw Hats don't care. Like, at all. Luffy calls them the worst pirate crew of all time, and they kind of just drop it or instantly forget about it, because they're all stupid assholes. Except Usopp, who, on top of being a stupid asshole, has crippling anxiety and can't stop wondering what horrors await them on this next island to have made that group of misfits' journey die so rough. It will take your life! Luffy is way too busy geeking at the sight of a new island, and possibly a restaurant, to care about some losers in a frog boat, so they drop anchor and head to shore. But they aren't greeted by a bustling town, they're met with the windows, Bliss Hills, and some rejected trees from the Lorax sprinkled around. Luffy is an actual dog, so he and his arguably two stupidest friends go rolling around in the grass and frolicking and almost get crushed by a bear. But this is no normal bear. The long way. This moron eats a whole long apple with the core and everything, then finds himself in total bewilderment at the sight of everything on this island being the long way.
See? Over there is a snow leopard. Why is its head the only thing that's long?
There's a mile-long dog, a couple of CVS receipts. So pretty standard pirate stuff from here. They break and enter into the first house they see, and then find a long horse named Shelly. Luffy starts a fist fight with two bamboo stalks, but then this old man falls from like 10 miles up in the air and cracks his skull on the pavement and basically just like evaporates into mist. Oh no, okay, I guess he's fine. This is Tonjit, but I'm gonna call him old man because that's what Luffy calls anyone over the age of 35. Turns out he was up on those bamboo stilts for 10 years trying to break some kind of world record. Like, actually. He survived on eating the long fruit out of the long trees that somehow reached all the way up there. Then he dies of food poisoning eating the milk he left in the fridge a decade ago. Oh, I guess he's still fine. Like that anonymous caller on my transponder snail made so very clear, this all takes place on Long Ring Longland Island, which is a segment of a belt of 10 islands that can be traversed between every 3 years at low tides. People who live on these islands are nomadic and for some reason like to pack up and move to the next island every low tide. So since the old man's been stuck up here on his bamboo stalks, ever growing higher and higher, his village all moved on to the next island, thinking he must have died or mysteriously vanished. And because of the way that they travel, they won't be back here in 30 years. The old man is broken up to discover himself all alone. He misses his tribe, his family, and especially his horse, which is like a horse, but long. The Three Stooges are like, hey, we know that thing, because somehow the old man didn't see it standing right outside the house when they walked in, I guess. But the two are finally reunited after all those years. They go for a little ride together, and it's this oddly sweet moment. Shelly waited all that time for her owner to return, and it wasn't in vain. She ignored the whole village's wishes for her to come with because she knew the old man would be back for her. They have this really triumphant, feel-good moment, and then she gets shot and killed. But who could have done such a thing? Oh my god, it's Foxy! Okay, so Oda must have been sat there, okay, it's a late October night, he's eating a bowl of Count Chocula, reading some Wario and Waluigi Yowie, and he gets the perfect idea for his next villain. Because seriously, how do you top an L? Sorry, Eneru. Well, I guess it's by doing whatever this is. A really bad trap for an anime to fall into is this constant need to top itself, for each villain to be more and more threatening and scary than the last. That can really make the progression of a story feel so stale and linear after a while. Look no farther than comic books to understand why after a really long serialized story becomes a little stale, it can sometimes be really beneficial to take a chance on a refreshingly weird villain. Foxy is nothing like Kuro, Arlong, Smoker, Wapol, Crocodile, Enel, and all the other villains we've met up to this point. He's pathetic and hardly threatening. He talks like this.
Why are you so scared, little boy?
Fuck you, man.
But the more he's on screen, the more I can't help but sorta like him. He's got the same childlike wonder that some of the Straw Hats do, and has a power that's pretty unique in the One Piece world. He has one of the elusive beam-like powers, this one making him one of the slow-mo guys. If you're caught up, leave in the comments if there's any other beam powers that I don't know of, other than him and Boa. Now, at least to me, in concept, a beam which slows someone down and locks them in suspended animation for 30 seconds is really scary. Put this in the hands of anyone from Thriller Bark and you'll know exactly what I mean. Or just anyone with a gun. But giving that power to this pear-shaped bastard is great because he just uses it to cheat in Mario Party. I don't know how asinine of a take this is, but I really feel like the story needed something like this here. I'm glad this exists because this frankly stupid series of events is what made me actually confront myself with the questions, what the hell am I watching? And why am I so invested? To answer the first question, Foxy challenges Luffy to a Davy battle, and of course he accepts with no further questions. But what a Davy battle is a series of minigames, and the prize is either the pirate's flag, aka their unbridled pride, or one of their members. This ancient game played in the honor of Davy Jones has been apparently passed down through the ages, originating in a place called Pirate Island. I don't know how stupid I sound right now because I don't know if that's a place that ever comes back in the story, but once the crew hears about this game, it starts to click why they saw that struggling fanged frog pirate ship sink to Davy Jones's locker. Their crew was plundered of its lifeblood, not just their flag and sail, but their honor and over 10 of their best members. Despite everything being so silly, the stakes are kind of really high. Losing any of the Straw Hats would be fatal to its overall well-being as a unit. But if they play their cards right, this could work in the Straw Hats' favor. I mean, a big part of this arc is all about the crew desperately needing a shipwright, so surely that's what they'd try to get, right? Surely Luffy brings this up and just once recognizes that this is the perfect chance to get a shipwright, right? No, they don't. Which had me questioning everyone aboard. But after I met Franky, I am glad that they didn't even bother with any of these chumps. But before you can say Afro Luffy, Longland has become a full-blown festival. And for anyone saying this is all just worthless filler, this is where Chopper finds out cotton candy is his favorite food. So yeah, you'd be totally lost later if you hadn't learned that. The first minigame in this Wario Party is a race around Longland, but Foxy has a mod menu. He and the rest of his goons cheat by bombing them, seducing them with food and booze and women, smoking them out, using fake signs and fake goals, going from someone so brazen like Enel to someone so crass in a different way like Foxy is just so refreshing for this series. And when something is 1,000 episodes long, that refresh rate becomes really important. Now, okay, does Foxy actually hold a candle to Enel? No, but it's alarmingly close to me. But as much as I can oddly sympathize with Foxy, I cannot say the same for his cronies. Now, don't get me wrong, plenty of the nobodies in One Piece have wound up being some of my favorite characters. Every once in a while, the show will hit you with a Chess or a Shura or a Bellamy, and then before you know it, they're gone. These freaks don't have that problem, unfortunately. Oda is really hit or miss with character design, and that's just gonna happen when you come up with characters in a week or a few hours sometimes. And Hamburg, Pickles, and Big Pan really don't do it for me, even with their super big mega monster burger attack or whatever the fuck is happening anymore. But the worst offender by far is this abomination. Portia,
I gotta roast you!
how are you in the same crew as this guy and still be throwing the worst fit? Look at this close-up, she looks pretty normal, right? But then she decides to throw on a superhero mask, these horrible gloves, which, by the way, are not attached to these puffball elbow pads, which makes it probably 100 times stupider. That somehow pisses me off less than the foot-wide puffball she's got weighing down her fat-ass head, and a pink Michael Myers jumpsuit rolled up the pants, unzipped the entire thing, took off her hoodie, tied it around her waist outside of the jumpsuit, then hot glued some marine shoulder frills on for good measure. Oh my god. I would win the Davy battle just to pick her and cast her into the ocean. Or cast her in cement and then cast her into the ocean. While I don't really like any of Foxy's crew, I do think that this whole situation is a fantastic vehicle for some character moments from our main characters. Like Sanji wanting to off himself for getting stuck with Luffy on this horrible raft, Nami navigating through the whirlpool currents, Robin literally wanting to drown their enemies simply because they're allowed to per the rules, and her reading those rules while using her powers to paddle for her. Even stuff like Usopp almost breaking his arm off using the impact dial, and everyone thinking that they're the first one going if they lose. I love how Usopp's arsenal grows as the story grows, using old technology like from Skypiea. World building and character moments are A, my favorite things in most media, and B, the lifeblood of One Piece. But at the end of the day, the house always wins. Even after outsmarting all their tricks, Foxy busts out the slow beam at the very end, ruining their chance of an early lead in the Davy battle. So yeah, they lose and Foxy immediately chooses Chopper, because look at him. Robin has a different hypothesis about the reason, but we don't need to go over that.
You know, I wouldn't rule out a fur fetish.
Take this, God!
The reason I bring this up is because this little scene is one of my favorite Chopper moments. He breaks down, sobbing, saying he can never be a Foxy pirate. He went out to sea specifically because of his friends, the Straw Hats, and he can't do this. But Zoro immediately starts making fun of him, calling him a coward and a crybaby, telling him to just man up and tough it out. Everyone is immediately like, dude, that's our dog. You're really gonna bully our dog for being sad? But this pep talk is exactly what Chopper needed, because he is a man. Chopper swallows his pride and chokes up his tears and puts this bravado facade on, and it's just so cute, and it's really important for his character. The worst thing to come of this, though, is that Chopper was supposed to participate in the next game. Basically, human soccer with Sanji and Zoro. What I mean by that is that somebody has to actually be the ball. Now this sounds kinda mean, but Zoro and Sanji kicking around Chopper like a soccer ball would have been a really good comp, especially with Sanji's kicks and Chopper's ball form. But now, it's just up to these two.
Hey, that looks good on you.
You think I'm gonna fall for that?
You look like a real prince from the kingdom of lame asses.
That wasn't even a good bird!
One of the major hurdles with this second minigame is that the ref bans any kind of cheating at all, but conspicuously is looking away whenever the Foxy Pirates are cheating. And then they both die. In truth, it's worse than death for both of them. They actually have to work together for 10 whole seconds. Zoro rocks the no sword style. Sanji keeps proving to us over and over again that he has the lamest attack names in One Piece. Except maybe you. These two unlock their greatest weapon, friendship, which, much like many of Zoro's other attacks, is probably just a one-off. Either way, the Straw Hat Dangers, as Foxy calls them, actually wins around. While this game was the shortest, it was so good, probably my favorite of the three. But who will Luffy steal? Nami says perhaps their captain would be a good choice, since his devil fruit powers would be pretty useful in the coming games. This is interesting to me because 1, Foxy just takes this on the chin. He's so dedicated to this stupid game that he really would be willing to leave his whole crew, his family, behind and become a Straw Hat pirate. And the second interesting thing here is that it shows that even though he kind of kidnapped them all, Foxy legitimately loves and cares for his crew, and they like him too. And although Luffy does acknowledge the advantage that picking him could give them, he does not want Foxy on his crew. So they get Chopper back, right? Well, in typical Luffy fashion, he chooses the horse.
I didn't really die.
Luffy did all of that just to get the old man's trusty steed back. It's sweet. Of course, Chopper doesn't really see it that way, but Luffy's just like that. God, Luffy is the worst. Our last game, thank God, is roller derby, aka the best sport in human history. The Straw Hats end up down a player, but since Foxy is so charitable, he lets one person compete in 2 of the 5 rounds. Luffy begs to be the person to go twice and gets his wish. But in the reveal of the century, he can't even stand on skates. But after a little bit of not so quick thinking, he gum balloons and they just roll his ass to the finish line. Too bad that he got shoulder checked by a guy with 5-foot knives welded to his arm and dies instantly. Then they lose the second round too against the slowest thing in existence because Portia can just put them to sleep, I guess. It's not looking good for Usopp, who has to race a literal cheetah in round 3. But a little bit of false hope shines on them when Luffy not only stands up, but Gum piss missiles himself so hard that he... Zoro has an epic horse ride to go grab a long kiwi. I don't really know what's happening anymore, but they win, somehow. In the next round, Robin is up against a fishman, and Luffy literally pulverizes him against a wall and then beats the brakes off him for like 2 minutes and doesn't even let him get up to compete. Luffy wins round 5 and the game when Robin forces Foxy to slow himself. They steal Chopper back and everything works out. But I know you're looking at that timestamp. And Luffy hasn't reminded us that he's the worst person alive in like 10 minutes, so he decides to sign the team up for another 3 games.
Bro, please, bro. Why you do...
Seriously, why would he do this? He knows these guys cheat, and this is risking all his friends' lives and sanity, so why? Did he not see Chopper sobbing his eyes out? Oh, okay, maybe it's because Luffy's all like, guys, we need a shipwright. Remember how he brought that up like a dozen times before this arc? But no, it's not that, it's just character assassination. He's just bored or something. On watch and rewatch of this, I was like, we're really doing this? Going all the way back around? But thankfully the first game of the rematch is 7 against 500 dodgeball, and this one is just refreshing. They instantly get the balls and nail Foxy in his split head, but in typical dodgeball fashion, face shots are a no-go, so they kinda just gave the balls away, but flashily.
Shut your mouth!
Sanji gets out, guess what distracts him? Oh my god. Zoro uses observation hockey and cuts the ball in half like a dumbass, which is obviously a violation. Seriously, man, you could have thought about that for like 2 seconds.
Hey there, buddy. Say I don't want to hear it, especially after that stunt you just pulled.
Chopper eats a blow to the face so Luffy could stay in, but ends up falling out of bounds anyways, and Luffy eats one too, but just because he's hungry. They lost. Say goodbye forever, Robin. Okay, next game. Keeping with the theme of childhood games, they play Red Light, Green Light next, and you already know how annoying some kids get with cheating in that game. Kind of an odd question, but is this the only Red Light, Green Light game in anime history? And if it's not, are there any that takes it more seriously than this? I'm curious. Some would even call me somewhat of a curator of... Oh. This one's a little boring, I won't lie. Mostly just the usual stuff. These two are fighting a bigger ego battle than anything. Zoro gets lost running in a straight line. These three are running away like always. Sanji gets to the very end, then completely throws because he has to save that ugly girl from earlier. I can fix her! Then Zoro kicks Hamburg right into the spotlight, permanently injuring his 3 friends and losing the round for all of them. This loss means saying goodbye to poor Chopper a second time, and with only 1 round left, they can only get 1 of their crewmates back. But Nami and Foxy, both being betters, decide to settle this conundrum in the only way they can, by both putting their entire crew on the line. The Straw Hats remaining 5, and Foxy's over 500. But Foxy isn't scared, because the last round is Captain Combat, and he hasn't lost a match in all his 920 fights. But before the fight, when Luffy is introduced to the changing room, everything changes, and thus is the story of Afro Luffy. In general, you know shit's getting real when Luffy takes off the straw hat, but taking it off to put something else on means he's entering a different mode. This is a different beast entirely. So is Usopp, who's wearing the straw hat, freestyling on Foxy and being Luffy's coach. I love that Foxy's got so many crew members that they can basically just build an amusement park in one afternoon, presumably for the second time since, like we established earlier, they already fought the Fanged Frogs earlier that day. Foxy slows Luffy down over and over, pummeling him, which all stacks into this massive critical hit after the 30 seconds is up. Despite being weird and old and ugly, he still trades blows with Luffy. This fight is not one-sided. He punches his mast straight off his ship. Foxy is not weak, but where anybody destroys Luffy is mental warfare. Like telling him to look up and hitting him with the trapdoor, dressing as a nurse and a cook, but Foxy isn't exactly a master of illusion and has to fall back on his Wario mech and his Hall of Mirrors and his room of 2-foot steel spikes. I just love how serious this is all played. Luffy would have died and lost his crew if he didn't hide a little shard of mirror in his afro. So yeah, Afro Luffy was pivotal to the crew's survival. And that's sort of how the arc ends. Luffy's a nice guy and also hates Foxy and all his goons, so instead of stealing his crew, he steals his Jolly Roger, painting them a new horrible one that they're stuck with. But per the game rules, all 500 of the Foxy pirates are now under Straw Hat's control. But as their captain, he gives them all one order: to fuck off. I think this arc gets too much hate. I think it's cute, and I think it has a really quaint little ending. They meet this big mole, which I'm guessing you can pick up what that means. And the person who's driving it is the old man's grandson. He was inspired by his grandpa's world record-breaking hobby and wanted to beat one himself. The two are reunited and plan to dig a hole all the way to the next island together. It's sweet. This is really what One Piece is all about, making us care about stupid characters like this, and make us kind of afraid of idiots like this. As they sail off into the sunset, the second they leave, they're all like, oh yeah, we needed a shipwright! It's super annoying and kind of my least favorite part of the arc, but like I said, Water 7 was the place to go. Cause I'm not messing with you when I say that the Franky dance is literally my favorite moment in One Piece.
It's cold, damn! Don't you have the sun here? Franky!
Why don't you put on this fur pelt?
Whoa, that'd cramp my reputation as a freak! Oh, super!
If I had to guess why people didn't like this arc, I'd say that they find Foxy annoying. But like I said, after Enel, I think it was needed to not fall into that trap of making everything bigger and badder. I also think that another thing working against it is that this is the start of Water 7, which is regarded as one of the best written arcs of the series, so it kind of looks bad by comparison, you know, when you put it next to everything with Tom and Enies Lobby. Is it the worst arc? Maybe. Is it horrible though? No. And I wouldn't skip it. It's got dozens of cute character moments, easily the best Zoro-Sanji interactions I've ever seen. Chopper and Robin being adorable, Luffy being oblivious yet coming out victorious. In terms of characterization, this is kind of a prime-time arc. Like I said, my biggest complaints are them not bringing up that they need a shipwright, and Luffy signing them up for another set of games even though Chopper, like, look at him. Rate my first One Piece video. How did I do? If you want to chat with me and keep up to date while I'm watching through One Piece, you can join my Discord, which will be in the description. And if you want to support me, I'd really appreciate going and checking out my Patreon. You could join the cool people like Gambit935, Hoops McCann, and Joe Wheelcar, who all get to see my content days before it goes up on YouTube. Do you want to hear me talk about other arcs? Do you want to hear me talk about characters, or the physiology of One Piece, or the world building, or like what islands I'd want to live on, or what? Come on. But as always, I love you, thanks for watching, and stay curious. I need outro music. Can one of you guys make me an outro? Alright, back to the One Piece grind.